everyone, and welcome to your NARSA Weekly Update for the week commencing Monday the 15th of December 2025. Almost halfway through the month here. It's Gary here again. Welcome to the video for the second week here. And yeah, this has been quite the, what would you say, quite the interesting week. What I waited, this has came out a wee bit later than normally it would because I was waiting until after the Hibs game so that I could give you my opinion on the Hibs game and save it being in cold storage for basically a week. So that's why it's a wee bit late. That might not be material to anyone here at all anyway if you don't listen to it until Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or whenever, but that's just what happened there. You know, a bit of a what would you say, down and up week for us here at Rangers Towers or whatever you want to call us. You know, obviously we got the defeat in Europe, and then we've got a League Cup win for the team from Paisley. Yeah, everything good in your life comes from Paisley at some point. And here was a bit of a fun fact I actually read yesterday that the Cimarron manager, I know he's done well since he went there, but I didn't actually realise it was that well. That in his, what's that, three leagues or 3 years he's been there, he's had 3 top 6 finishes, qualified for Europe, and now won the League Cup and won it against one of the Old Firm, the weaker of the 2 Old Firm teams, of course. And it was great to see. I mean, that's one of the things. I was talking to my niece Chloe about this earlier today during the game. That's one of the things about being a sports fan. It's to cheer for your own team and kind of cheer against your arch rivals, whomever that would be in whatever sport it is that you're actually watching. And it was just brilliant yesterday. I completely forgot all about it until, it must have been until about 60 odd minutes or something. I didn't know what the kickoff time was and such, and just kind of had forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden you start to get the odd text here and there kind of saying, don't want to tempt fate, but you might want to pay attention to this. And then following it, I tried to find it on YouTube, but I don't have any of those dodgy boxes or channels that other people that I know of here in North America have. And I tried to find it on YouTube, couldn't find it anywhere, so I ended up just putting on Super Scoreboard on YouTube, and the guys were commentating, Hugh Keevins. Oh, what a broken man. My heart bleeds for you, Hugh. No, it does not even a wee bit. And then, of course, that culminated in our result earlier today as well. So that would have been a bit of a real, air out of the balloon moment if we hadn't won that game today against Hibs. So I'm absolutely delighted that we managed to do that. So, it makes things a wee bit interesting. Yes, I appreciate we're always chasing. I think I mentioned on the pod a couple of weeks ago, last week even, I'm fed up chasing. I'm fed up, having to be the ones that's always kind of doing these mathematical gymnastics and such to give ourselves that opportunity to say, you never know, because that's a bit sad and a wee bit pathetic. But that's all we've got for right now. So that's what I'm going to stick to and cling to, and then we'll see what this week brings. Of course, this is going to be a massive week on both sides of the city, actually. So we'll see what that looks like. In terms of the game segment, of course, the down part was the fact that we had to play another game in Europe. It would be good if we could just say, listen, why don't we just not bother playing the last couple of games? Give us a couple of £100,000. We'll say that we were going to get a point, maybe, or 2 or something like that, and then we'll just move on. We don't want to get in the way, because that's really what we're doing in Europe right now. We're getting in the way, and it was a 2-1 defeat, of course, in Hungary against Ferencváros. And I did get a wee bit of stick last week about my pronunciation of that. Some words are just difficult for some people to pronounce, and that one is one for me. And I didn't know until after kickoff that Robbie Keane was the manager there, and he's just as annoying a little arsehole as he's always been. Even when he was playing, I wasn't a fan of Robbie Keane at all during his career. He had a very, very good career, admittedly, and not so much when he came up to Scotland, though. One of these, I'll just go up there and finish off my career with the team I love and do all that sort of stuff, and it didn't quite work out for you. That's a shame for you as well. But I think if he might, and I say this as a baldy guy, and I don't really have any recourse on anybody who has hair, but see if I had hair And then I made the sad decision to dye that hair. I would actually, and then I'm going to go on internationally live TV. I'm going to do a better job than it looked like he did on his hair. That was a sad attempt at whatever it was. And then the way that he was bouncing about at the end of the game, as if he'd just won the World Cup and married Miss World and all that sort of stuff. He's just a clown and always has been, and that's why I really don't like him. But anyway, I thought they created. I think it's one of these games actually for me that if they had their shooting boots on, especially in the first half, that would have been a different story for us. But we kind of kept them at bay a wee bit. They created some chances without really troubling us too much. I don't think so. We didn't have that. It didn't feel like it had that kind of, the momentum was all with them. It's going to be a runaway. It's going to be in some way a blowout. I didn't have that impression. And then Majowski gets the third goal in 2 games with this acrobatic, effort that came over, instinctual. That's what it was, and that's what he's just rediscovered as soon as he got himself out of his own head and realised that the skills are still there, and it was absolutely brilliant. Of course, then he gets injured because that's what happens when you start to play well for Rangers. You start to pick up the injuries and such. So hopefully he's not out for too long in that respect. But we had that unlikely lead, and it was it was after Danilo's overhead kick that he attempted, which kind of helped set up the goal, of course. But and it wasn't even a long VAR check. I thought it was offside the very first time I seen it, and then the VAR looked at it and very, very quickly. They must have better equipment for the European games than we have in Scotland, because sometimes in Scotland when we're trying to see a Rangers goal, it seems to take a wee bit longer, if you know what I'm saying. So it was 1-0 for us, and I thought we played well enough in the first half. Maybe I should caveat it by saying well enough in the first half, and we were quite resolute. And then at the very end of the half, it's one of these perfect time to score. That's what you would say a lot of the times. And obviously it's for them and not for us. And it really genuinely did put the wind in their sails and take the wind out of our sails with the way that the second half went. And it was just one of those goals again. I know I keep saying it all the time, but we just come up with new and inventive ways to lose goals. Rangers do. And it's incredibly artistic, and it's creative, and it's annoying, and it's really, really annoying, in fact. And then it was just one of these ones where we had an opportunity to just clear it a couple of times, and we just went to sleep a wee bit, didn't we? And then we got that's what happened. And then I'll give Giga a bit of credit here, because I've been relatively hard on him. I'm not really that hard on many Rangers players, if any, at all. It's just not my style of supporting. I think supporting should be supportive and not berating. That's a different word, and it's a different intent entirely. But he had a couple of last gasp challenges in the game, actually, especially in the second half. And but overall, the second half was rough. The second half was synonymous of the entire European campaign, especially the league phase of the European campaign overall. And when it went to 2-1, we just didn't cut out the cross at all, and there's still defending to be done. I'm not going to blame Tavernier for not cutting out the cross. He's been somewhat plagued by being a wee bit lackadaisical going into stuff like that. But we noticed it again in Hibs today. There wasn't a lot of that urgency to cut down the cross. We don't need to continue to have teams absolutely pummel the box with balls in all the time. But as soon as the ball came in, very good ball to come in, by the way. I'll give the guy credit for that in terms of the cross and the weight and the bend and such like that. But what Fernandes was doing, I have no idea. See if you see some of the still shots of leading up to and then the actual moment where the guy heads the ball in, he is all at sea, completely all at sea. This guy's 24 years old, folks, and he should really be honing in and perfecting his craft right now for the next 3, 4, 5 years till he gets to his peak years. And then, he's got a good 6, 7, 8 years of that in that. And it just doesn't look like there's that instinctual defensive presence, certainly when it comes to playing for us a lot of the time in Europe. Anyway, it was just a gift. And I wouldn't mind if it's a rocket that goes into the top of the left hand or right hand corner, and then you could just say, we could have shut it down, but that's a good finish. It's just not a good look. It's not good for him. Hopefully a very good learning moment for him, and then we'll see what that looks like. But overall, I have no complaints about the result whatsoever. We were absolutely second best in the second half there, and We did have a brilliant chance at the very end, didn't we? Where Curtis had a chance right at the very end. It was deflected. And just what deflected, then the goalie made a brilliant save. 2-2 would have been harsh on them. I would have taken it, obviously, of course. But we needed to win that game to have any sliver of hope of continuing with European football after the group stages here, and that'd be February and beyond. But it was never really going to happen anyway. So yeah, the positives, I thought the solid start to, the first half for the most part was decent. Absolutely brilliant to see Majowski score again. That was a real turning point for him, hopefully, especially when he comes back. And it was great to see Dujon Sterling back. I'm not sure if he would have been back if we hadn't been back so soon, if we hadn't been so ravaged with injuries. But he looked good when he came back. In terms of the negatives, it's just their defending again, isn't it? It's just one of these annoying things that we just get hurt and hurt and hurt. Time and time again. Teams aren't having to work too difficult to score against us, I think, is probably the fairest way to say it. And 1 point from 6 games. What's that? 1 point and 2 goals, is it? From 6 games, it really just tells you where we're at in terms of our European pedigree for this season, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better for the last 2 games in the new year, so we'll see. In terms of the stats, the Rangers website said with 44% possession, we had 4 shots on goal with 2 on target. Feels about right, versus 7 shots with 3 on target. It felt like more for them, but whatever it was, they scored 2 out of the 3, and we scored 1 out of our 2 on target, that is. So I guess our percentage was a wee bit less than theirs, obviously, and we lost the game anyway. In terms of the referee, I don't recall him being that annoying, so he's going to get the standard 7 out of 10 for that. And then the second game, of course, was our game today against Hibs. And it's kind of unusual to get the opportunity to talk to you almost immediately after a game. Right now, it's just went 5:01 p.m. my time. The game kicked off at 12:45 p.m, so it's been finished for a couple of hours now, but I had a couple of work meetings and a little bit of parenting to do, so I didn't get a chance to get to this as quickly as I would have liked. But yeah, 1-0 home win against Hibs, and I have to say, it was one of those ones where you get, when you see the lineup and you're thinking, oh no, like what even is this? I don't even know what it is. One of the guys on the NARSA group chat had said that must have been one of the youngest lineups in history, and then maybe that's true. Who knows exactly what that looks like? But a couple of teenagers in there, and certainly a youthful look about our lineup, and it was an absolutely shocking first half, wasn't it? Like painfully bad to watch, and just I don't know how we got ourselves set up for that. The manager talked pre-game about really delivering for the full 90 minutes, and then the team are like, sure, we'll do the second 90 minutes. Is that okay? Or 60 of the 90 minutes today? Oh my word. And then we've got, what was it? Was it a corner kick that came in directly? I think it was a corner kick that came in. Jack Butland was absolutely nowhere for that. And then the boy heads it, and then Sterling had a brilliant clearance off the line. That would have been one of the ones where Butland would have been really, really, under the spotlight and under scrutiny for that one, because he should have came for it, yes, but he should have got somewhere close to it and understand the flight of the ball and the dynamics of the physicality of what's happening. He has to be more commanding than that. But Sterling, he really imposed himself on the game. Let's just say that, because he was the guy that set up the winner, as it turned out to be. He a brilliant ball in, actually from run about the same area as the Ferren Vacros team had for their winner as well. And then we had Fernandez to come in with a great header. He had to kind of angle himself a wee bit, and there was still a bit of work to do. That would have been very, very easy for him to head it over the bar, and he got under it enough and put it right through the goalie there. So absolutely terrific. And then we had a much better start to the second half, I thought, and looks like we're creating some chances, and we're really, really trying to put this game to bed. I really genuinely felt like we were, and then we just kind of stopped again, didn't we? It was almost like there was 2 bookends of dross, and then like a wee purple patch in the middle for us. We had a bit of a penalty shout. I thought it was a penalty, to be honest. And it looked a wee bit embellished the very first time, but the one good thing that you get nowadays is VAR has an opportunity to go back and look at it, and there was definitely contact there. Now, the annoying thing for me is that the instinct should be to try and score the goal unless you're completely prevented from doing so by the opposition player. So if if he's been hit enough and it was his trailing leg as he's just trying to get a wee bit of purchase to get himself going, there's contact there. I mean, I know these players are trained or train themselves. I don't exactly know how it happens behind the scenes. But as soon as there's any bit of contact, they are down. They are going down, as simple as that. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, but I understand why they do it. You see the replay, there's absolute contact there. So then VAR has decided pretty quickly, by the way, and it can be quick sometimes, that's odd, isn't it? That they decided quite quickly there wasn't enough contact for him to go down. That's very subjective, is it not? That's a wee bit worrying from my perspective, where someone's like, yeah, he hit you, yeah, he did, just not hard enough, in my opinion. So we'll just move on from there. That would have been the game put to bed if we'd had not that opportunity to do that. So all right, whatever. And we're not going to, obviously, because we won, we can comment about it a wee bit more without it looking like sour grapes. And then as we're kind of at the end of the game, I thought our game management at the end was a wee bit poor. You know, we a corner kick and we don't play a short corner and keep it in the corner. Tav just puts it in and puts it beyond everybody and you know, basically gifts the ball back to them. And you know, the last 20-25 minutes was a rough watch again for me. We did Gassama was very, very unlucky with the offside goal. It was a great ball through to him and he put it away superbly well, but it was just a wee bit on the offside there. So one of these things, you know, 1-0, all I prayed for prior to the game was just to get a win. I didn't care how it happened, and that's exactly what the team managed to do, because that would have been very deflating if we hadn't done that, especially with the fact that we're playing against Hearts this coming weekend. So the positives, the win, the clean sheet. You know, we haven't lost a lot of goals. And domestically, if you take away the League Cup final, the League Cup semi-final, I have League Cup final on the brain here, obviously. You know, I haven't lost that many goals domestically, maybe 3 or 4 in the half a dozen or so games, 6 or 7 or 8 games that Danny Rule has been our manager. More game time for Sterling, a good hour. He got there almost an hour today, and it was great to see Clinton Enciala come back as well, and I thought he did quite well when he came in as well. So, you know, Fernandez and Enciala looked like he was absolutely on his way under Russell Martin, and Fernandez, I don't even know, I think Fernandez maybe played one friendly game or one European game or something like that under Russell Martin, and he was just completely bombed out. So much for the, you know, everybody's got a clean slate, we'll give everybody an opportunity. I mean, he signed Fernandez, or he was there when Fernandez was signed, however the actual mechanics of that work on the admin side. But good to see these guys doing some well. I liked Enciala last year. He had a couple of dodgy games. Who didn't last year? And he seemed to just kind of get sin-died for that. So it's good to see him coming back. And one person that really deserves a bit of special mention here, I don't do a man of the match. Maybe actually let me know if you think I should do a man of the match each week, and you know, just add a wee bit more flavour to that. Maybe you don't, and it doesn't really matter. But if I picked a man of the match, I would have agreed with Kevin Thompson on co-commentator duties today on Rangers TV, and I would have given it to Connor Barron. He is vastly becoming our most effective player. I think he is putting in a tremendous shift in every game. They seem to be using him really well, you know, by giving him an opportunity to come off towards the end of the games, you know, just really go and go hell for leather, and then get an opportunity for a wee breather at the end. He's breaking up a lot. His passing has got a lot better. You know, practice makes perfect. So sometimes if he's kind of in and out, some of his passing can be a wee bit dodgy because he's a bit rusty. Maybe that's the way that it is. But he's becoming a key player for us. The type and style of player that when he's out the team, you're like, oh, what happened? Like, who's going to play that role? Because I think it's kind of like the role that I see Nico Raskin playing from a Belgian perspective, although he's a wee bit more, I don't quite, it's not exactly the same role that he plays for Rangers. But Connor Barron did really well today as well, so absolute shout out to him as well for that. And he is becoming the mainstay. In terms of the negatives, as I mentioned, the bookends, not very cool start or end to the game, which is quite annoying. And then that's just kind of the way that goes. And despite a decent start, it felt like we went backwards. We just kind of went backwards as the game went on. So it's not something that's to be celebrated, I don't think. In terms of the stats, the Rangers website says that we had 51% possession, and that feels about right. We gave up the ball a lot, and you know, we defended well. You know, obviously we didn't give Jack Butland too much to do today, and that was okay. The Rangers website says we had 11 shots on goal with 8 on target. I don't know. I mean, I was chatting to Chloe now and again, and I did look down once or twice at my phone to take some notes for the podcast, and I did have a cup of tea. Maybe I missed half of those shots on target. I don't know. But anyway, it says that Hibs had 5 shots with 3 on target, which seems maybe just about right. And that. In terms of the referee watch, Don Robertson, I thought he did okay, honestly, overall. I just thought he was a wee bit late in coming out with his cards. I thought it was going to be one of these ones where the two teams were really going at each other and it was quite a physical game. And then you get to a point where a Rangers player will tug on the arm of somebody else's jersey or something like that. And then the yellow card gets brandished and then I'm sitting annoyed. We're all sitting being annoyed by that. But the good thing was that he kept it fair. You know, he let challenges go on each side. I just thought it could have been a wee bit earlier. There was a tackle on Chermiti towards the end of the half. And by the way, Chermiti, I thought, had a decent game today. It was good to see him get the 90 minutes in and you know, had that one shot in the beginning, had that shot where it went out for a throw-in. But he was battling hard and he was, you know, had a couple of good link-up plays and such like that as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not one of these guys to rant and rave about any particular Rangers player. We know the troubles that he doesn't have to seek right now, and a couple of goals would really go a long way to helping him out. But yeah, I thought, anyway, back to the referee watch, Don Robertson just took a wee bit long, in my opinion, to get the cards out, but he was quite fair for both of the teams. And the VAR, super quickly saying that it wasn't a penalty for us, I thought was kind of convenient, you know, but whatever. So other than that, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 just because I'm annoyed by the VAR decision. Our next game, it's a big week for us folks, isn't it? Our next game is on Sunday the 21st, this coming Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 1:30 p.m. UK kickoff time. And quite honestly, folks, I prefer the bigger games. I would much rather, I'm more confident going into a bigger game against the likes of, you know, the Aberdeens or sometimes the Hibs, depending on how they're doing, the Hearts now, that since they're flying, and that mob from the East End, rather than away to Falkirk or at home to Falkirk, or the same for Livingston or Dundee or anything like that. So we are away. They've beaten the Old Firm, what's that now, 3 times this year? And I think it's a real good opportunity for us for payback for what happened at Ibrox. I mean, we were on the end of some shocking refereeing decisions there, and Hearts didn't deserve to win that game the way that they did. So it's going to be interesting. You know, I could see there was a wee bit of resting players towards the end of the game today to give them, or to, I imagine, to limit their exposure to potential injury and give them a wee bit more of a breather away from the intensity of the competition. And hopefully that works for us come the weekend. Hopefully we'll have 1 or 2 of the injured players ready for selection. Majovski back would be absolutely great, thank you. And see what that looks like. But yeah, we've got an opportunity to right the wrongs of what happened at Ibrox. And I mean, this is a genuine, literal 6-pointer for us. You know, we're 9 points behind them with a game in hand. If we win that, we're 6 points behind with a game in hand. Then all of a sudden you're starting to do you're kind of counting your chickens before they hatch. But that's maybe only 3 points as we move into the new year, and that's a much better position to be in. That mob are away to Dundee United midweek as well, and that's not a gimme for them the way they're playing right now. And who's to say that that's not going to be the 4th defeat in a row for them at some point? At some point you would imagine that they might turn that around, but long may this dire spell that they're in. I mean, welcome to the club, folks. We've had more than a fair share of that this season alone, domestically and in Europe. So it's going to be a very, very interesting week. And if we come out of that, as I said about the Hibs game, any type and style of victory, we'll be up for the fight, and they will be up for the fight, and may the best team win. As long as it's us, of course, you know. And so that's what we want, and then that's the last away game of this calendar year. And then we've got a couple of home games, and then we are away to Sharkhead, and it's fastly getting close to becoming Sharkhead again, isn't it, with the way they're going? So just a reminder that we have on the shout-outs I'm on to now that the Orlando Rangers Supporters Club is 30 years old. On Saturday the 3rd of January, they're going to go from 6 p.m. till midnight at Murphy's Pub, which is the home of the Rangers Sports Club in Orlando, and they also call Tav's Tavern when we've got a Rangers game on. So that's the Old Firm game that day, of course, and it's the 30th anniversary party. So you get a chance to go for the game, enjoy a victory at Sharkhead, go away, do some park stuff, maybe swim in the pool a wee bit, get yourself freshened up, get your glad rags on, head back to Murphy's and toast in 30 years. 30 years is an incredible amount of time. And for Colin to pick up the club by the scruff of the neck the way that he did when it looked like things were looking very bleak for the club, and turn it into this host club, of course, of NARSA 2025, and doing all the great things that he's doing down there is absolutely perfect. We will keep between now and then the link to the Facebook event that's there, and if you're in the area, you would be absolutely more than welcome. I wanted to do also a couple of shout outs in terms of we learned the news after the European game that the Big Apple Bears hosted none other than Rangers chairman Andrew Kavanagh, and I just think he looks miserable. Absolutely miserable all the time. He just doesn't smile. I don't like it when they don't smile. I like to see a wee bit of personality in there, but by all accounts he was very, very, very pleasant. Took time to speak to everyone and bought everyone around at half time. Why couldn't I have been there? That's just in my price point. And it was thoroughly nice to be around. Obviously not the exact result that he was hoping for, but he did have some conversations with people and acknowledged that there is some significant work that has to be done in this January transfer window. And I think, I don't know if I mentioned it last week or not, folks, but I think one of the key things that might help us out in this January transfer window is the fact that it's a World Cup year, and we might have access to players that are maybe on the fringe at other clubs but still have an opportunity internationally to go to the World Cup with their national team. So we might end up saying, look, come and help us for 6 months, we'll help you with exposure. You'll have a couple of European games in there, you'll have an opportunity hopefully for a run in the cup and maybe a title challenge depending on how the next few games go for us. But it's a kind of win-win for both folks, so both parties, I should say. So I'm really, really hopeful that that's actually going to turn out to be the case. So we'll see what that looks like. But it was great to hear that Andrew Kavanagh, one, knows who NARSA are, knows where NARSA, how to get in contact with NARSA clubs, and would take the time to visit when he's in town. Not a lot of Rangers personnel do that when they're on their travels. I know that from direct first-hand experience here in Calgary, and the Orange County folks know that down there as well. So good for him for going in there, and apparently a thoroughly nice man as well. So, every book doesn't, or every cover, a book, you can tell a book by its cover. That's what it is. Come on, Gary. You can tell a book by its cover. Maybe we can't with Andrew Kavanagh. Yeah. So I also have a shout out for the NARCO, the North American Curry Organization, and it feels like it's a mini convention. It's really turning out to look like that. It's beginning to look a lot like NARSA. That's what it feels like, but it's going to be in Myrtle Beach on February 12th to the 15th, which is the President's Day weekend, I believe, in America. And the Thursday night is going to be a welcome meet for drinks and pub grub at the Old Bull and Bush. Friday morning, there's going to be golf at a course TBD. Friday afternoon, there's going to be a trip to, I'm just reading this here, folks, Murrells Inlet for lunch and drinks. Friday night, back to the Old Bull and Bush. Saturday morning is the Rangers versus Hearts game at the Myrtle Beach Rangers Supporters Club, otherwise known as the Kakalaki Loyal, and that is Barry Bryson, formerly of the Orange County Rangers Supporters Club parish, is down there doing his thing in his garage now. So he's going to be so if you think you're going to a wonderful venue, you are indeed. It's just going to be in a garage, and I've seen some of the photographs of that and it looks absolutely brilliant. Barry's done a great job with that. That's going to be 10 a.m. local time. And then here was the thing, there's more golf on the Saturday afternoon after the game at the Kakalaki Loyal. Now, if I was going to the Kakalaki Loyal, the chances of me making the golf in the afternoon, virtually zero. Now, the caveat to that is I'm not a big golfer, so I wouldn't really mind missing out on the golf anyway, but that's what's going to happen there on the Saturday. And then Saturday night curry at the Masala Indian Bistro, and then Sunday morning, you'll be shocked to know, golf again. 3 days in a row for golf. That would tally more golf than I've played in the last 5 years. I'm pretty certain of that. And then Sunday afternoon is a farewell lunch at the Old Bull and Bush as well. So if you're looking for any details on that whatsoever, I'm sure there's already a Facebook page created for that. There's a really good flyer that Andy and team have put together, and you can contact NARCO 2025 at outlook.com. Actually, that should be NARCO 2026. So I'll get the actual email address for the show notes but I thought I'd cut and pasted it, but maybe I wrote 2025 by accident. I'll double check. It might be 25 and they're just using the same email address from this year to next year, or whatever that looks like. But it's looking very, very organised, and it's an opportunity to connect with bears and get a chance for some sunshine around about that time of year. I know that's going to be quite attractive for some, so good luck to Andy and all the organising folks for that particular event. A reminder for Amanda and Jason Junior Ross, who are running the London Marathon this coming April on behalf of or in support of the Royal British Legion. And another shout out for David Edgar, CJ Novo and Stevie Clifford. Their evening at the Edmiston House on January the 9th. Now, I did say, you'll probably remember, that I was going to get CJ Novo on and Stevie Clifford on individually, kind of like I did last week with David Edgar, and just do a wee slot just to plug the event, talk about them, what they're doing and stuff, us to get access to their audience, they to get access to our audience and such. With the game being today, I didn't even ask for this week because game day is game day, and everybody has their own thing to do on game day. So it's one of these things. I'll try and get that organised and lined up for next week. Now, the caveat to that is that my understanding is the ticket sales are going quite well now. So there might be a less enthusiastic attitude to coming on the show to plug it. If they've, say, for example, if they sold it out, they might just be like, nah, we'll maybe catch you next time or something. I should have got them earlier than this, but hopefully we'll get them on. It would be great to have the boys on anyway. I don't know them well. I've liaised with Stevie over the years, but I haven't met him in person, and I don't really know much about CJ Novo, if I'm being honest. So it would be good to get to know him. I understand he does a lot of really good stuff on YouTube and such. I'm a dinosaur, folks. I don't really pay attention too much to anything going on outside my wee NARSA bubble here. And I did want to end up the shout outs with a wee bit of a personal shout out. For those that are longer term listeners, you know that my godson and my nephew passed away recently, and he was suffering from mental health challenges and unfortunately took his own life. And just a reminder again, if you are struggling in any way whatsoever, if you just don't feel like yourself, if you're just, things are a wee bit more difficult than you think they should be at any particular point in time, you email me anytime whatsoever, and then I'll give you my phone number and we'll have a conversation on the phone, and I'll do my very best to get you any help and support and resources that I can. And that's rangersscc@hotmail.com. 2 R's and 2 C's, rangersscc@hotmail.com. And the shout out for this week, pertinent to that, is that Dylan's funeral was last Wednesday morning. We got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch it at Woodside Crematorium in Paisley. And my nephew Michael, I did a talk there, and he did a great job. I know it was a very, very difficult thing to do. It's a very emotional thing to do. You think you're kind of there, and then you have to go and bring in the coffin, and then the coffin's just sitting there, and it's life changing, that type and style of experience. I've done it more times than I wanted to have done it by this point in my life, and he did a great job. He told some really funny stories and brought the place, brought calm to the place, and did a fabulous job, and there's some great songs and such. And then everybody went on their way to the reception afterwards as well. So well done, Michael. I know you don't ever listen to this, but for the rest of my wider family and friend circle, you've got some kudos there. You did Dylan and yourself and your mum Margaret very, very, very proud. In terms of the convention update, it's 177 days and 25 weeks until we do Nashville 2026. That's June the 11th to the 14th. And just a reminder, it is World Cup opening weekend. We do know the games and the times of the games, and we have, what we're going to basically do is a one-pager that says this is the entire event, this is when the World Cup games are. So if you want to say, let me check the schedule of the games, you don't have to do that. We're going to produce a one-pager for you and give you that opportunity to know and understand where the games would be played. We're going to try and have some of the games accessible. In fact, we are going to have some of the games accessible in the Cambria Midtown Hotel, which is our destination hotel. And right now, we had a meeting with the hotel last week. We've got some final checks that we're doing in terms of other venues that we can maybe use and utilize to add into the itinerary of the event, and what we can expect in terms of exclusivity in the Cambria Midtown Hotel, just to give us that opportunity to say, right, okay, so this is what we're paying for, this is what we're not paying for. That helps us build in ticket or build up the ticket prices so that we know exactly what that looks like. Then when we add guests in and things like that we have an operating cost for the tickets. I was kind of hoping that we were going to have that by this week, but we don't have all the information that we need for right now. Definitely before Christmas. So I'm making that commitment right now. So definitely before Christmas means that I'm going to have the ticket price for you for next week, because there's only one more podcast between now and next week. So we've got a lot of work going on, and we will hopefully have those ticket prices organised and ideally out for sale, by this time next week, or certainly before Christmas. That's the plan for now anyway. We're beholden to other third parties to give us information so we can then essentially plonk it into our financial model and spit out the ticket prices, make sure that we are comfortable with that, and then move forward from there. So that's that. In terms of other NARSA business, we do have one final meeting of the year this coming Wednesday, where I imagine that the conversation will be dominated by the convention, and I'm trying to get this rebranding thing in my head. It'll be dominated by Nashville 2026, or Destination Nashville, as I've been instructed to call it. So we'll see how that goes, and of course I'll give you an overview next week of exactly what that looks like. In terms of the communication for this week, I actually forgot to check if there was a GERS guide out there, so I'll give you the GAS guide. I imagine tomorrow there'll be a loan review. Today there was probably information about the women's team. The women's team had a 3-0 victory against Partick Thistle yesterday, and it did well. They're third in the table, 3 points behind Hearts, and they're actually joint with that mob from the East End. Rangers are joint with that mob, I should say, and 7 points behind Glasgow City. So not too dissimilar from the situation the men's team find themselves in. And with the games coming thick and fast for both teams over the next wee while, who knows, both teams could be making a push here, and this could be an absolutely incredible 2026 for the entire club. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, so I imagine there's not going to be too much on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday will be the presser for the Hearts game on the weekend. And then the game is, of course, on Sunday, like I had mentioned before, as if you don't know that. And the Rangers women's team are away to Aberdeen on Sunday as well, with a 1 p.m. UK kickoff time. So we will see what that looks like. I was asked earlier today to remind any presidents or secretaries from NARSA clubs, if you have received an email from, I'm not 100% sure where the email would have come from, if it would have came from Gary Fleming or maybe Alan McWatt, or possibly narsacommunications@gmail.com. Either one of those, you were extended an invite to attend a meeting with Alan McWatt, the NARSA president, and Gary Fleming, the NARSA vice president, to just talk about how your club are doing, what your club need from NARSA, any suggestions or ideas, and an opportunity just to create a wee bit of community and camaraderie there as well. So we haven't had a lot of responses, I am imagining, by the fact that Gary asked me to mention that today. So if you have received that, please, we will make the time work for you. We're not going to force you to a specific time. So please do get back to whomever emailed you. Look in your junk folder if you have not received that email, and if you still haven't received that email, then please do email out to myself at rangerssec@hotmail.com, and I'll make sure that I give that information over to Gary, because he's the guy that's quarterbacking this whole thing. He's coordinating everything. And speaking of emails, I just wanted to mention this one last thing here before I end today. I got an email. I'm subscribed to, I've bought a couple of Calgary Cavalry tickets over the years, so I'm part of their distribution list. And last week I got an email which I thought was fascinating. I forwarded it to a couple of people, where they said, folks, here's the status of the entire squad. And they said, we have, and I'll just make numbers up here, this is not true, we have 25 players in our squad, 18 are already on contract to return in 2026. 4 are out of contract. The club are speaking to them right now. 3 are under negotiations, with other clubs, like whatever it was. And they just laid out the entire squad. And I thought, I don't know how things work here from a transfer perspective, but it seemed like there was a lot of competitive advantage information in there. And I thought, imagine we did that in our football. Imagine how, I don't know, I mean, people would use it for good and for evil, I imagine, but it would be an agent's dream if the club were just to say, here's the lay of the land, and then the agent goes, right, I don't need to do any of that homework. You've just given me all the information I need. This is what I'm going to do. And by the way, I think the Old Firm in particular in Scotland for this year, this coming transfer window in particular, the January transfer window that is, I think we are going to be an agent's dream, because both teams are in disarray. Both teams need an overhaul of some description. They need some sort of impetus and some sort of inspiration to try and have a strong second half of the season. I know we're not exactly halfway yet, but it's going to be, if I was an agent right now in the UK market, or actually probably in any market, I would be rubbing my hands together with glee, saying I'm going to make some real big commissions here with the two teams in Glasgow. So we'll see how that goes. But very interesting way to go about the business. Just open book. This is exactly what's going to happen. This is what we'll do. And they named the players, of who's under contract and who's coming back. It wasn't like just a number and a wee bit of vagueness to that. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Anyway, now that this is our second week, I know there were some wee technical glitches last week in terms of the background disappearing and such. I record this on an app called Riverside. I use it for my own business, my own podcasts, and my own socials and such on my side. And last week there was some glitch. Something happened where it didn't work at all, and I had to go onto their engineering team, and I thought it was me. Honestly, I thought it was my fault, and it got to a spot where they were like, "We're really sorry about that. We've created an upload for you. It should work fine." And the upload, it was a wee bit in and out. Hopefully not like that this week. Please do let me know if it's in and out this week, and we'll see how that goes. But hopefully that helps with a wee bit of momentum on the YouTube side for us, and gives us an opportunity to really continue to be in your eyes and ears as we're going forward. So I'm using this opportunity to ask you if you would please share it with someone that you think might enjoy it, someone who's maybe a bit more of a YouTuber than a listener, or something like that. We're trying to provide, or trying to cover all the bases, I guess, is probably the best way to say it. So I will leave you with that for this week. As always, thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to tune in, and please do share it with anyone, as I say, that you think might enjoy it, or might want to see this lovely face every week. Oh God. And a wee shout out, I did get the what is this, the third, the fourth, the fifth kit? I did say this about my shirt last week as a birthday present last week from Debbie and Andy, and I got 4 cans of Tennants from Chloe as well. So I am looking forward to devouring them after we beat Hearts on the weekend, or maybe just before it, just in case it doesn't work out. We'll see how that goes. But until next week, 3 points is an absolute must for this weekend. I would take 1, but I really, 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 really want 3 to really put ourselves back into the mix there. Until next week, please do take care of yourself, and I will talk to you then. Follow.